Dealing with language barriers, the power of the word of mouth, and the difference in approach between African and EU markets, Soma Njie will share her experience working with CPaaS in Africa. Soma Njie is an Afro-Anglo corporate creative who reflects her multi-passion work and life experience, particularly through her business development role at Alchemy Telco. She has worked with international organizations such as the Female Lawyers Association Gambia, EU, the British Council, Japanese and American embassies. Could you please tell me more about what your company does? I know that your sphere and your market is Africa, which is even more exciting, especially considering the fact that we have so many biases about the African market. And you can actually say for sure, as an expert, what actually works and what doesn't.
Sure. Yeah. And as I say, kind of, with the expertise, we're learning every day. And it is mainly our expertise is garnered from, again, those relationships that we're having with people. Being on the ground really helps us because quite often we're service recipients to some of the people that we serve. For example, in the financial sector, one of the business practices is that if you do business with a bank, you open a bank account with them and you get paid through that. Mm-hmm. So you do end up gathering quite an interesting number of business tools as you go along the way. But I do think that it's kind of digital tools well liked in the continent and are really kind of gaining a lot of traction. But something that we bore in mind quite strongly from the get-go is that, okay, it's great to be able to tap into those who are in the top 20% of income, but it leaves the digital divide widening. And that's something that really kind of kept us up at night a little bit. We were kind of like, we're part of this. And we really saw how CPaaS is a tool to be able to bridge a simple phone, which is increasing in connectivity. I mean, in the Gambia, we have fantastic stats for mobile, where regular mobile users, not necessarily sort of like iPhones or digital mobile users, are over 100%. So in every single household, pretty much, you're pretty confident that someone will be able to receive at least a basic SMS message. And this is really dictated to what our core business was. We started off and we really were passionate about the more digital tools. We're working on a money app, a super app, basically, that will help connect across the board digitally. But we've always been really, really careful to tie that in with the humble SMS. It's something that we believe in its usefulness, and the cases for use have really kind of been tried and tested for us time and time again. And sometimes it's about convincing our clients, being like, okay, I know you want the app, but how many people are going to be able to receive that message? Or what if the internet goes down and you're sending out an emergency? Or, fishermen out to sea, how good is the Wi-Fi connection out there? Why don't we send them an SMS? And they're like, SMS. But whenever they've had faith in what we're saying, they've found it's been fantastic. COVID, for example, the negative tests were delivered by us by SMS. So it meant that people quickly, reliably, within a few seconds of it being sent, received, their messages. And with the stats, with I think only 30% of people are banked, so digital tools payment becomes an issue, which is basically why we brought in the super app to enable those who necessarily weren't banked to be part of the financial, the digital financial sort of new world. So SMS is one of ours. IVR is another. Again, being on the ground. You pick up a phone and someone would speak one of the, I think it's 12 local languages in the Gambia. With only a 2.2 million population, it just shows that this is very much the norm, that the tribal languages, and it's something that, everybody wants to be spoken to in their first language. You may be comfortable speaking in many other languages, but to really get the heart of a person and to really get their full understanding and their full cooperation, so you can collaborate with clients and you can collaborate with beneficiaries. I think it's important to be able to speak to people in their own language, and that's something that our tech has enabled us to be able to plug in for users, and we're really excited about the applications.
How do you work with this language barrier, considering the fact that there are so many dialects?
Well, what tends to happen is in every locality there's a preference. There's the official language, which is English, but the preference for most, both here and in Senegal, are Wolof, which is one of the it's not one of the lesser known, it's one of the widely spoken communal languages. Whereas if two people of different different tribes meet, that would be the most likely that both would have enough of a grasp of. And again, it's kind of, sometimes I'd be like, okay, I'm not so great at Mandinka. Nafi, our finance person, I'll kind of drag her over and be like, hey, we have someone here who's a little more able to help and kind of, help each other out that way. But sometimes it's as simple as asking someone, saying to someone, what would you rather, how would you rather converse? What's best for you? And again, that comes from the confidence of having 3-year conversations with people before you finally do business, part of the mix.
How do you manage to spread the word about your business, especially considering the fact that Africa is a developing market in many circumstances and cases? How do you work with that?
It's on multi-levels. Again, constantly having those conversations and having the faith that if we do a great job, not just a good job, but we do a great job for a client, the word of mouth to their peers will do good work as far as spreading the word. And we're increasingly looking at our sort of media presence, things like ensuring that we're having the right conversations and we're looking at the right audiences for the work that we do, not being too enamored with vanity metrics and being more concerned with the conversations that we're having off the back of it, being let in through the door, being very focused on what our financial sort of strategy is, as well as who it is that we're talking to. So it's things like we've moved more to the financial sector, largely because we believe that even those who don't have access to internet have a right to know, if you have a bank account, exactly what's happening within seconds, and really being very a little bloody minded about convincing MDs to say, okay, this is something, these are the benefits of having a user ID for security. This is our security protocol. This is our advice on GDPR and on, data safety. It's not something that's as advanced here, because I know in the EU, it's one of the most rigorous, but what we did from the get-go was to line ourselves up with GDPR sort of standards to make sure that, we're setting a system that in 10 years' time is still going to be robust and is still going to work. And, everybody has that right to that security. And we think that just because we're operating in Africa and it may be easier to set things up in a lesser format, we're very proud of making as difficult for ourselves as possible. So we're giving the best possible service.
With this difficulty comes an ease, there is a saying.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's a brilliant saying. I love that.
My question is, have you ever worked with other markets besides African ones so that you could actually compare and say, okay, African approach is more this rather than this European?
Yes, not with Alchemy. So much, but in other manifestations, I mean, we've worked quite regularly with EU NGOs, which have, they come with their incumbent style, so that it tends to be set up like the country of origin for the funding, for example. And I think also Kim and Malik are very, very good at being able to look at other companies in other countries and see how we can have a collaborative approach. At the moment, we're working very closely with US Indian companies. We're yet to announce, so watch this space, for IVR solutions and improving the contact center offering that we have. And I think that really does help. Like, I would say that Africa is certainly more difficult to convince people to try something new. But once they do, I think it kind of, if you pick the right influencers, should we say, in business, it lights fires very easily, if that makes sense. It makes the word of mouth infinitely easier. Whereas in Western markets, I've found in the US, I found it's much more difficult to have a word of mouth recommendation really translate directly to another sale. Like, we've had people literally call us up and be like, hey, my friend has just heard SMS from you. I want it right now. Send me the contract and we're going to sign up. So we're like,
yeah, I actually also noticed that the phrase word of mouth is the most frequent in this conversation. And this is the reason. Absolutely.
Definitely. Because I think trust is something, again, that comes from that. If you have a recommendation from someone that you really, really trust, you know that you're going to get what you ask for. And I think that's one of the main differences. I think legal system for business justice can be a bit tedious and it's difficult. So people are less averse to risk in that way. And I think that whilst there is an ombudsman and there are regulatory bodies, it's more difficult to get a business to have an immediate result from interact. If you feel wronged or you want some sort of arbitration, it's difficult to get that result and still have your boots on the ground and to, get your daily job done. So I think that's another major difference that makes people slower to uptake brand new concepts.
Anyway, Soma, thank you very much for sharing all the insights. Some things which we didn't know about the African markets. Wonderful to hear that they sell trust, word of mouth, and after that, everything will come.
Absolutely.
Thanks for sharing. We're very happy to have the conversation with you. Thank you. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Brilliant. And season's greetings.